everybody. It's Joe Cioffi here on this Friday night. FiOS 1 News Long Island and FiOS 1 News New Jersey. It's the finale this week of the Joe and Joe Weather Show. As we're coming up on 9:15, we will be talking about the weekend weather. We'll be talking about the weather going into next week, all kinds of stuff that's going on. I have to tell you, it's just a little bit hard to take this sort of long duration days of cloud cover just seem to go on and on and on, and wish that the pattern would break to some degree, but there's just a lot going on with the upper air. We're going to you can see it over to the left here on the satellite, the U.S. satellite view. Just a very, very busy pattern in the eastern part of the United States, and all those clouds that extend down into the tropics. And that might have some implications later next week. I think there is a chance that something might try and spin up in the northwestern Gulf of the northwestern Caribbean next week. I just want to say quickly, Phil DiStefano, thanks for helping me last night. I really appreciate it. We were trying to get the Skype thing going. We actually were able to get we were able to get Skype to work to get the video part of it up. The problem is still the audio. We haven't figured out how to get the audio networked in through the system that we use, but I'm looking at some Google solutions, and hopefully we'll get there. But thank you very much for messaging me about it, because we really want to get this Skype thing going so that we could bring guests into the conversation, and maybe even bring some of you at home into the conversation at some point. So a big hello to everybody. I see Jason Schaefer is on, and Peter Allen. I don't know what you're frightened about, but whatever it is, I'm sure you'll get over it. John Sears has put down his clarinet and saxophone long enough to watch the show. As always, good to see you here. My favorite plow guy, Eddie Richardson, is on from Lacey, New Jersey, and thank you very much for the congrats on my new grandson. Veronica Dorman Bazanka, congratulations to you on your son graduating from Stony Brook today, and congratulations to Philip and to Dad Phil, who I'm sure was so proud that his buttons were bursting at the graduation ceremony. So, Mr. Rayo has arrived.
Yes.
What are you eating?
Corn.
Oh, all right. Just checking.
Somebody brought in. Who brought this in?
Lincoln did.
Oh.
In engineering.
Oh,
I don't know how it was very good.
Excellent.
Must be fresh picked from somewhere, but it was very, very good. All right, so we got stuff going on. What's your opinion with regards to Saturday? All day rain, some breaks.
I can tell you exactly what's going to happen. I can tell you, because I have tickets for tomorrow night.
Bingo.
At Citi Field, which is also Star Wars bobblehead night.
Okay.
And what the game that these major league, not just the Mets, but what all major league teams like to do is, and tomorrow I believe we're going to have not a tremendous amount of rain, but just enough to make it debatable or questionable.
Yeah.
Maybe about a half an inch or 3/4 of an inch of rain. But I think it's all going to begin petering out toward the latter part of the day. It's a night game tomorrow. So I'm sure the Mets will probably say something like, well, we're going to try to get this game in for our faithful fans.
Okay.
And they will entice you to come to the ballpark in miserable conditions.
Right. Make you pay for parking.
Make you pay for parking. You'll get into the parking lot. This has happened many times, folks, where you pay for the parking. I think now it's like $20 just to put your car in the parking lot. And then they'll make you sit around, and either they'll have you sit around and watch the game in what really are going to be dreary conditions. Temperatures probably near 60, some fog, some showers or light rain. Not the greatest conditions to watch a baseball game, but they need to get rid of these tens of thousands of bobbleheads. And if they don't play tomorrow night, they've got a problem. They've got to figure out when are we going to distribute these things. So they're going to do everything in their power, I'm sure. And I, living a fairly good distance from the ballpark up in Putnam County, not too inclined to go to a ball game with the kind of conditions we're going to have tomorrow night. So it's going to be an interesting day, a day of agita and a day of frustration for yours truly. But I do believe, Joe, that we're probably going to have the steadiest rains during the first part of the day into the afternoon. It'll begin to diminish some later in the day and into the evening. The Storm Prediction Center has us in a chance for thunderstorms. I honestly don't see that.
Well, for tomorrow?
Because it's just so cool out there.
Yeah, or the marine layers there. I can't see how that, for tomorrow anyway. Sunday might be a different story, but I don't know about tomorrow.
Sunday will be a day quite different from Saturday in that the warm front, hopefully, well, is it possible to have cold air advection, cold air damming in May? I don't think so. I think the warm front will push on through tomorrow night, and then we'll be in a decidedly warmer airflow on Sunday.
I think there's enough with the front coming through on Sunday to trigger off maybe a little bit of thunderstorm activity in the afternoon in some places. Not like the other day, I hope, but there might be a couple of thunderstorms in the mix there.
Please.
Here's the satellite tonight. We still have. I love these GOES pictures because you can see the layers of the clouds. You can really pick out the features so well. And we still have this. I've been calling it this tropical connection that is running from the Northwest Caribbean right up through into the eastern part of the United States, and that is bringing in all this moisture. And the problem is that you've got this. I'm just trying to draw it in here really fast, but you've got this upper high that's off the East Coast, and you also have this trough right about in here.
Right.
And there's an upper low that's sitting right near St. Louis tonight, and as a result, if you follow the flow, it's coming from the south or south-southwest along the East Coast, and that means all this tropical moisture's got no place to go but straight up. And until we could break this connection, either flatten that ridge, weaken that trough, or get the northern jet stream, which I'll draw that in too. The northern jet stream is kind of doing something like this. It's too far north at the moment to bring down some drier air, but there are some signs that is going to at least flatten that ridge so that we could maybe squeeze out a whole day of dry weather on Monday.
The Monday looks like probably the nicest day out of the next 5 coming up. And of course, I've been saying on Fios 1 all through the day today, not so great tomorrow, still not all that great on Sunday, but of course, going back to work and school on Monday, you'll have beautiful weather with sunshine and temperatures well up in the 70s.
Well, the college grads don't have school, and a lot of them are all out now.
Well, we're talking about, the kids now.
Here's the Storm Prediction Center, at least for tonight. There's a lot of severe weather going on in parts of Kansas, eastern Colorado, western half of Oklahoma. There's that big area of slight risk with a smaller area of enhanced risk. Inside it, the blue box you see there, that they add to it actually in the last couple of frames, that's a current severe thunderstorm watch. But in the east, the thunderstorms that are going on in the east now are all really heavy rain producers. They're not of the variety that are producing strong gusty winds, but they are producing heavy enough rainfall that in some places we do have some flash flooding issues in parts of North Carolina and Virginia tonight.
And we have a high pressure system that's centered near Nova Scotia, and it's a fairly formidable high in the sense that it was able to push enough dry air down, not only for us, but also for people as far south as south central New Jersey, keeping it dry. The cloud cover certainly was in place, but even in parts of the Hudson Valley, the clouds thinned out enough so that there was some sunshine this afternoon. That's why places like Poughkeepsie, Newburgh, Kingston, all the way up into Monticello, those places got to 70 or higher today.
Which reflexively is going to happen this time of year.
Which, of course, it reflects the fact that we had that high sun angle.
Right.
And the sun was able to get through the cloud cover. It was much cooler, though, because the clouds were greater, more widespread and thicker over, let's say, New York City and points south. So
there's your Storm Prediction Center for tomorrow, Joe. As you said, they have this general area of thunderstorms, but I kind of find it difficult to imagine. I could think we may get some heavy downpours tomorrow morning when that first band comes up, but I'm not too. I don't think we're going to have to really worry too much.
Unless, if this is a 24-hour,
it does go to Sunday morning.
Okay,
yes.
So Sunday morning, it's not out of the question. By Sunday morning, we'll be in that warm, humid airflow, and there may be a few renegade or isolated showers or thunderstorms that might pop up. But definitely for tomorrow into at least a good bulk of tomorrow night, it's going to be much too cool in the air, much too stable to support convection or thundery weather.
Here's the, well, as soon as it updates, here's the radar loop ending at about 9 o'clock on Friday night, in case you're watching this on a replay later on. Let me bring Joe back into the picture here. Hang on 1 second. There you go. The rain is loading up now across Virginia, Maryland, Delaware. That is going to be coming in. You're going to see the rain moving into central and northern New Jersey during the early morning hours, probably reaching Long Island. I'm thinking maybe about 3 a.m. or so. New York City about 3 a.m.
I said for the Hudson Valley, anytime between 1 and 4, taking into account a little bit of a faster movement and whatever. But yeah, but certainly when everybody wakes up tomorrow morning, regardless of where you happen to be watching us right now in the tri-state area, you most definitely will be looking at wet weather. It would appear right
Sunday, Sunday I think we should be able to squeeze some dry time in on Sunday. I can't imagine it being, an overcast, showery day. If we get warm sectored, I think we'll probably get some breaks of sun. That might help to bubble up the showers in the afternoon.
Well, I would agree to a certain extent, although from what I looked at least on the GFS, they had a rather noticeable drop in the dew point temperatures during the afternoon hours, and that suggests to me that maybe that cold front that is off to the north and west, quietly comes through, well, not quietly, may generate some showers and storms up until about midday or early afternoon on Sunday, and then slowly but surely, as the atmosphere begins to dry from the top down, maybe things will improve, and we could put the precipitation behind us.
Right. Here's the band of rain that's there tomorrow morning.
Right.
I'm looking at the NAM. The only thing about the NAM, which has nothing, by the way, for Sunday at all, the NAM did so terrible in the thunderstorms from the last 2 rounds of thunderstorms that we dealt with this week.
Right.
It just didn't do well. Maybe its streak of being well ahead of the game is over with. And the
it's not cold enough anymore.
Yeah, the HRRR did a really good job, so I think we'll probably spend a little more time with that. It doesn't go out far enough to Sunday, but at least it'll show us the rain that comes in overnight. And this is by 2 a.m.
Right.
The rain is almost into northern New Jersey and into Hudson Valley, Long Island, like you said, around 3, 4 a.m. And then that first arm kind of goes out, it looks like, after about, that's at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, but there's still rain around, especially north of New York City.
See, that's what I'm talking about. We'll get the rain, the steady rain, and then as it peters out later in the day, that's when people with tickets to the Met game probably say, well, let's go and see. Let's try, because it probably will. And it's not the greatest of weather days to see a baseball game tomorrow night, but all of you I know want your Star Wars bobblehead.
Yeah. Now, I'm still thinking, Joe, I'm just going to bring up the, we're going to take the Atlantic view here. And if I can get this upper air to come up. In fact, you know what? I'm going to just really fast, so at least we can outline this. So just give me 1 second here. I'm going to see if I can bring up the upper air on the paint box, and then we could, do a little drawing here. In the meantime, you can finish your corn. It was very buttery tasting.
Yeah, this is great stuff.
Well, pretty soon we'll be getting all the fresh grown veggies. All right, so here we go. We'll just take another second here and bring the map up. Yeah. I sometimes can go pretty fast with this thing, but just bear with me. Okay.
Well, don't worry about it. Tex Antoine used to use plexiglass and grease pencils.
Right. Okay. So I got the map up that I want. So let me just bring up the little paint box. And of course, it disappeared.
We had 4 tornadoes in the Hudson Valley, and I'm wondering whether or not you might be interested in making a mug now with the 4 tornadoes and name it Fornado.
Oh no! No. I'm thinking not. That's.
Does this mean we're going to get 4 hurricanes up the eastern seaboard?
Oh Jesus, Joe! Please don't even go.
That was a rhetorical question.
Don't even.
You don't need to answer it.
Don't even go there.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's this is the upper air this evening, and here we have this. This has really been the big problem. Well, two things have really created a big problem. Right out here, this I'm drawing in this bluish purple, whatever it is. This is a big, strong upper high. It's an east-west oriented Bermuda high. Then you've got this trough, which is going to be represented by this upper low that I'm drawing right over St. Louis, and that trough in the jet stream, that dip, goes all the way down into the Northwest Caribbean, and you can see it's pretty obvious here. You've got this strong southerly flow between the two,
like a channel.
Right. So here this is all this tropical air, and as far as trying to get some help from the northern part of the jet stream, well, that is a little bit difficult because that jet stream is way up to the north, so all that nice dry Canadian air is nowhere to be found. Some of it at the bottom of the atmosphere managed to get as far south as you said, up into the Hudson Valley and probably down into parts of interior southern New England, but that's about it now. And now you're going to see that tropical air that's moving back up northward. We've been playing with this front buckling back and forth all week long, and we're going to probably deal with this again later next week, which is now going to be the next thing I want to bring up, because as we go into the latter part of next week.
See, this is in those epic summers where it seems like there's endless periods of hot, hazy, humid, sticky weather. This is what happens. We get these big ridges that build up, and all the nice, dry, cool air shears off, literally, to our north and never makes it down to our neck of the woods.
Well, the only thing is, and I, just kind of openly speculating here, if I remember correctly, the last few years has been unusually dry in the Mid-Atlantic and in the Southeast, and that has, with the lack of rainfall, creates warmer conditions as you get into the summer months. Right. But it's been fairly wet throughout much of the Mid-Atlantic and South Atlantic states, and certainly this pattern we're in now is adding to all that. So it makes you wonder whether whether that's going to maybe cool things a little bit in the longer term. I mean, it's a question I put out there. I don't know what the answer is.
Well, April last year, if you remember, was incredibly warm, near record warmth last April, and here we flipped. And this year, April was exceptionally cool.
Right.
So maybe
as was March.
And so what you're saying, possibly if they're following along this line, that we might indeed have wetter than normal conditions.
And that might hold the temperatures down. Yeah. Now this is the upper air for a little later this week. And I'm bringing this up. This is actually for the end of next week. And one of the things that remains is you've got this weakness here, this trough that extends down from the middle Mississippi Valley down into the Northwest Caribbean. The northern jet looks like it does come down somewhat, and maybe that helps to cut off some of the tropical moisture getting this far north. But the problem is you're going to probably have weather fronts that are going to be moving along with this, and that may produce some showers when they go by. But the weakness that's down here in the Gulf of Mexico and the Northwest Caribbean, models all of them are trying to spin up something in an area where you would likely see something spin up, and that is in the Northwestern Caribbean later next week, right in here somewhere.
And that doesn't spell good news if you happen to live in the, quote, sunshine state, because any kind of a tropical development, be it a hurricane, a tropical storm, but not only that, but even a subtropical system, could very well lead to some very, very heavy rain totals on the order of maybe, a half a foot or a foot of rain in
yeah. Well, you know what? The way I'm looking at this is whether something develops or not. First of all, it's the end of May. It's highly unlikely that it would be anything other than a tropical storm if that were to happen. But and we're only openly speculating here. But what I think is with this pattern overall, it does lend to the probability that as we keep moving through the last days of May and then starting to get into early June, there is going to be this sort of tropical connection of moisture that's going to send moisture up from the Caribbean into the southeastern part of the U.S. and the mid-Atlantic states. And if that northern jet gets out of the way, or if the upper high builds back in, which it may very well do, if it builds back in, that could mean, more wet weather in general going into the end of the month and the beginning of June. Just that, again, open speculation here.
But if that's a good flow to be in, though, even though it's marginally, cool, so to speak. The fact that if you want to flow during the summertime in this part of the country, have it come from the northwest. At least if we get our share of hot days, at least we won't have accompanying it the very high dew points and the extreme oppressive conditions that we sometimes see during the summertime season.
Right. Let me just really fast. Let me bring that map back up because I didn't have the right window, and apparently it doesn't want to give me the right window. So let's try this again. I'll open it up again. See, okay, so that's what I was describing before. So now it's visible. So the trough that runs down from Missouri down into the Northwest Caribbean, the ridge that may try and build back over time, and whether something again spins up or not, that is open speculation. You can see where the northern jet is. It does put us into it, so maybe that could allow for, it'd be nice if we could have a couple of days where we've got some sunshine in between weather fronts. Whether that materializes or not remains to be seen.
We're kind of like in the same pattern the Mets are in right now.
Oh,
the Mets
baseball.
The Mets have not been able to put two consecutive winning games together. Every
well,
time
at least
they
they're
win a game, and in our case, it seems like we can't put more than a day or two of nice weather together before we go into a stretch like what we've just gone through.
Well, at least they're batting in order now.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I had to say that. Yeah. Christina Morel, we indicated last on what happened with the rain today. Well, we indicated yesterday the rain was not going to be a problem today, that we were going to dry out considerably.
Right.
And that indeed happened. So, the rain threat was really for...
Earlier in the week, we had the rain coming back in the afternoon and evening today. But
it was obvious that it was going to get, pushed back. Nick Cortez, as I have said to you many times, I do not do long range. It is not my thing to go out months and months ahead of time. So, you keep asking me, and I keep telling you, so don't keep asking me about the long range. Phil, it's Friday. I'm getting a little ordering.
Yeah.
Phil DiStefano. How come when there's a line of big storms and when it gets to the North Shore it breaks apart? Marine layer, Phil. Marine layer. You've got the wind on Long Island this time of year from almost any direction, unless it's west or west-northwest. You're going to have some kind of ocean component to it, and if there's any kind of a fetch off the 49, 50, 51 degree water, that kills thunderstorms. It stabilizes the entire atmosphere. As these thunderstorms move into the marine layer, they just completely fall apart. Now, as we get into the summer months and you get into July and August, that marine layer disappears because the water temperatures start to climb up toward and go over 70. But until we get there, you're going to have this happen with these storms. They're going to move east and be huge at times, and then when they get to Long Island, they just weaken.
Right. I can't improve on what you just said, so...
Okay.
How about giving us an idea, since you're very big into the equestrian field?
Oh, tomorrow? Oh, for the Preakness?
Yes.
Okay, so here's my thing. So Justify already won the Kentucky Derby in the slop.
Will they have sloppy weather tomorrow down in...
Well, you know what? After the rain pulls out of there... Pimlico's a funny track. I've seen it where it's been pouring rain and an absolute, slop fest. And it stops raining about an hour or two before the race, and it just dries very, very quickly there. But, unless Justify is if there's something going on with him that is not evident, he did have a bruise coming out of the Kentucky Derby, but it doesn't seem to be impacting him I'm assuming the owners are going to run him tomorrow, and Bob Baffert's going to run him tomorrow. So he's definitely he's every bit of 2 to 5 on the morning line. Here's a horse that has only raced 4 times with 4 wins. He can only keep getting better. It's hard for me to bet against him. If you want to take a shot with one of the new shooters, you might want to go with Quip. You might get a good price with him, but this is not like the Derby, Joe. It's a shorter field.
Yeah, but is she a good mutter?
Right. Sometimes a he can be a better mutter than a she. Good Magic, who was the runner-up in the Derby, is a nice little horse. A little horse. He's actually in stature. He's small, but he's also he's pretty talented. He won the Breeders' Cup. He won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile as a maiden, which is really tough to do. But I think it's Justify on top, and then it's a race for second.
All right, so we'll see how that pans out tomorrow.
Well, I got to put my wagers down.
Next Friday, he'll give us a tip on the Indy 500. Probably.
No, I'm not. Car racing isn't my thing. I love horse racing. Yeah. Having actually owned part of a couple of horses and actually stood in the winner's circle a couple of times, which was pretty thrilling back a number of years ago. But that's when I had money.
So why? Here's a question.
I don't have money anymore.
Here's a question I always wanted to know. Why is it there's 2 weeks between the Derby and the Preakness, and then we have to wait 3 weeks for the Belmont? Is that because the Belmont is so long they want to give the horses an extra rest? Or?
There was a time I got to go refresh my memory as to how they came up. There was a time where horses actually raced in races in between the Derby and the Preakness, and in between the Preakness and the Belmont. When you go back many years ago,
right.
But the breed has, is a lot more fragile now than the thoroughbreds are much more fragile now than they were, and owners are very reluctant to run their horses that many times. They're trying to protect their investments, which we're talking millions and millions of dollars. They are very careful about running it. Yeah. It is an incredibly difficult ordeal for a 3-year-old horse to run those 3 races in a 5-week span. It takes a pretty special animal to be able to do that and to win all 3, which is why it happens so rarely and why we had waited so long
for a Triple Crown.
Justify may have the goods to do it. I just don't see any. I don't see any new horses that might come in that may be able to beat them. I could be wrong, but we'll see.
We'll know tomorrow, right?
Yes, we'll know tomorrow. I wish I knew now, so I would know who to bet. Just trying to make sure we got any other additional questions before we. Call it a night.
The corn does look good. It doesn't look good.
Yes, it does. Jason Schaefer, would I say that the NAM is poor at modeling convection? It has its moments. They all have their moments. Yeah. I don't know. Sometimes the NAM does really good with lines of thunderstorms, and sometimes it doesn't. During the wintertime when we were using it every day and it was doing so well, the trend was our friend, and we stayed with it. Maybe now it's taken a bit of a break. Rocco Fridella, good to see you, even though you're late today, buddy. But it is good to see you on board. Just trying to see. Monday, Dennis Cassia, clear Monday morning for the rocket launch at Wallops Island.
Oh yes, Dennis. It does look clear. They're going to launch a resupply mission to the International Space Station, and it leaves from Wallops Island, Virginia, at about 4:45 in the morning. Mm-hmm. What makes this launch interesting is that a broad area of the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast will be able to actually see the rocket go up. But even more interesting, the second stage is a solid rocket, which means it'll leave like a glowing contrail in the sky, because as it ascends into the atmosphere, sunlight will be in darkness, but sunlight will hit that trail. And so if you're looking at just the right time, you'll see this weird, line in the sky, which eventually will become distorted by high-level winds. But of course, everything is to see that, you need clear weather.
Right.
And at this moment in time, it does look clear, but we'll see how this all pans out.
Well, and the geoengineering folks will just tell you that that's the new way of spraying things.
Oh, you have no idea. When they do this sort of thing, the chemtrail people come out of the woodwork.
Shh! I wish you hadn't have said that.
Oh, well.
No. I know. They look. Yeah. By the way, here's the bottom line. I've maintained this policy for the most part, unless somebody really annoys me, and some people have. So if anybody that wants to bring this subject up, I'm not responding to it. Okay, we're a weather page. Joe and I are both meteorologists here we're talking weather, we're talking forecasting.
Right.
If we start an X-Files channel, then maybe we can talk about other things like that. But we're keeping it on point here. All right. And speaking of which, it's almost time to go. It's Friday night. Everybody wants to go do things before the midnight hour comes. So Fios 1 News, Long Island and New Jersey at the top of the hour for me.
And was that my turn? Yeah.
It usually is.
Yes. Okay. Fios 1 News, Lower Hudson Valley for me, and we'll be back, I guess, on Monday. We have a weekend coming up.
Yep. We have a weekend. It's Pinheiro and Latella on the weekends, and then back to Monday with Fitzgerald and Banson, Green and Borer, and Rayo and Cioffi, or Cioffi and Rayo, depending on which Joe gets top billing on the Joe and Joe Weather Show.
We never get top billing.
We are top billing.
You know what I just noticed, by the way?
What's that, pal?
The way we're seated here.
Yeah.
It almost looks like the opening to Courageous Cat and Minute Mouse.
Gee, Courageous!
No. You never know. Courageous Cat is like sitting in the Catmobile, and like
the frog.
You could be Courageous Cat, and I'm sitting here like Minute Mouse. You ever notice like Minute Mouse is down here?
I'll write Minute. I'll get my weather gun. Oh God, I would do my Courageous Cat Minute Mouse PSA, public service announcement, for a certain particular subject matter, but I will do that for you off camera.
Okay.
Have a great weekend. We'll see you on Monday. I'll be around over the weekend too, by the way, so you can catch YouTube live streams, and I'll probably do a couple of Facebook live streams, but I will be solo.
Okay.
Bye.
Well.